Hello everyone, I am Pratik. I'm 15 years old and I'm from India. Today we are going to discuss about an age-old concept of motion and its cause. To be more precise, how Newton interpreted motion. Newton was born on the auspicious day of Christmas in the year 1642. He is considered to be one of the most influential scientists of all time. He formulated the laws of motion, universal law of gravitation, and many other laws. Newton had a very vivid idea of the cause of motion. Newton introduced the word force. Force is simply a push or a pull acting on a body which changes or tends to change its state of rest or of uniform motion. Newton's ideas were expressed profoundly through his three laws of motion. Newton's first law of motion states that a body at rest or moving along a right line with a uniform velocity continues to be in the state of rest or of uniform motion along a right line as long as no external unbalanced force acts on it. This law is also called as the law of inertia. This idea of inertia was borrowed from Galileo. Newton's second law of motion states that the rate of change of momentum of the body is directly proportional to the force acting. Newton's third law, a well-known law, states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. In the cartoon given below, while the man is running on the boat is being pushed back. As the boat is being pushed back, it offers a reaction in the forward direction to the man, which helps him to jump and land safely onto the land. Now, there's a question in our minds. How did Newton formulate his laws? Newton did large number of experiments in motion of bodies, and while doing so he was struggling to prove the ancient idea of motion by Aristotle, that force acting on a body was directly proportional to the velocity achieved by the body and inversely proportional to the resistance offered by external agents. Void. So he started to examine the motion of bodies very carefully. While doing so, he observed that when a greater force was applied on the body in the direction of motion, which is already in motion, the velocity changed. That is, in this case, it increased. Now, he repeated the same experiment, but this time he applied the force in the direction opposite of the direction of the motion. He reasoned and figured that ancient only considered velocity, and this was the reason they failed to generalize all kinds of motion. He came to a conclusion that change in velocity was much more important rather than velocity itself. I have a thought experiment to understand the effect of change in velocity. Force. Take a marble and push it on a smooth, frictionless table. We know that we can't obtain a frictionless table, but at least we can imagine, right? Okay, let's get back to the experiment. According to the law of inertia, the marble shall continue to move in a straight line with a uniform speed. Now gently push the marble in the direction of motion. We find that the velocity of marble increases during the process of us pushing the marble. We can identify three main events which have taken place: motion of the marble before the push, motion of marble during the push, and motion of marble after the push. Before the push, we find that the marble is moving with a uniform velocity along a straight line. During the push, the marble was in contact with the hand, experienced the force being exerted on it. After the push, the velocity of the marble increased. The velocity before and after the application of force is not remaining the same. This means that there is a change in velocity of the body, and that is obviously because of the applied force. Let us also assume that this change happened in a small interval of time. The change of velocity over a period of time was seemingly becoming evident that it played a very important role in causing the change of position of the marble. And I guess Newton figured it out, and he found the first piece of puzzle to describe the motion of everything. The change in velocity over a period of time, and named it as acceleration. The same experiment done in the other way round, that is, gently pushing the marble in the direction opposite to the direction of motion, too would yield the same result. And here, the decrease in velocity over a period of time is called deceleration, or simply negative acceleration. After the concept of acceleration, Newton understood that he was nearing the completion of his theory, but he lacked the second piece of puzzle to explain the motion and its cause, force. He started looking at bodies from different perspectives and understood that he too forgot to complete the fundamental concept of mass. He figured out that mass of a body was directly proportional to its inertia. Now the question arises, how did he find out the relation between inertia and mass? The answer is a result of deep and rigorous reasoning. Imagine a person pushing a box whose mass could be altered. Just like the box in the given diagram below, we could add some bodies into this open box to increase its mass. Consider that the person is always applying a constant force onto the box. What would happen is the mass of the body increases. Since he is applying a constant force onto the box, there will be a change in velocity over a period of time, or simply acceleration. But we also know that from the law of inertia, that the box is resisting the change in its state of rest. As we add more and more of the mass to the box, the resistive nature of the box increases, and so does inertia. From this we can conclude that inertia is directly proportional to mass. Now as the body's mass increases, it will resist the change in position, and as a result the acceleration decreases. We found a relation between mass and inertia. The next question is, how are mass and force related? Let us consider that there is a force which produces the same amount of acceleration for any given body. Now, as the mass of the box increases, we find that the force required to produce the same amount of acceleration for a different body of smaller mass is a lot greater. Hence, the force acting on the body is directly proportional to the mass of the body. Now, what do Newton's laws give us? Newton's first law, borrowed from Galileo, gives us the definition of force as a physical quantity or simply a push or a pull that acts on a body which changes or tends to change the state of the body. Newton's second law gives us the equation for calculating force. Newton's third law gives us the application of force on a body. Thank you. I hope that this presentation has opened your mind to a lot new perspectives on the motion of bodies around us. Once again, thank you and have a imaginative scientific day.